All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Mission 300 podcast. Here is what we're going to go after today. Our very own Caleb has just finished filming a short documentary of Mr. Mark Dowdle running the Arrowhead 135, which I have been told is kind of an intense ultramarathon. Apparently starts in the coldest city in the United States outside of Alaska. 135 miles. Caleb has been filming this. I think he started a couple weeks ago. A lot of interesting stuff that happened during this race. So we're going to let Caleb talk about that. And eventually we're going to get to some of the observations that he had in people that do incredibly hard things like this. So Caleb, do you want to tell us a little bit about how this got started?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, this is probably the first time you guys are seeing our faces if you're watching it on YouTube. And so, yeah, this is all of us right here now. But anyways, so yeah, this it was about a week ago. January 26th was the start of the race. And it is a crazy ultra marathon, which if you don't know what an ultra marathon is, it's an ultra marathon's anything that's over a marathon in length. And so you can do 30 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles. Some of the bigger ones go up to 240 miles. And so this is the Arrowhead 135, and it's 135 miles. So there's so many things to say about it. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Usually, like statistically, only half of the people who even start it will finish it. And you can either run, bike, or ski the race. And this year, they had about 60 runners, I want to say, and then like 17 skiers. And I can't remember how many bikers there were, but there were a lot of bikers as well. I think it was 50 or 60. But like to put it in perspective, this year, out of the 17 skiers, only one of them even finished the race. And it was like the morning of the race was like -20 at the start. I've never even filmed in weather that cold, so my camera lasted about 3 minutes before it completely shut off. And luckily I had an extra camera and my dad with me, so I still got to record the start. They set off fireworks for the start, which is really cool. And it was just like an incredible race, filming Mark Dowdle, who we'll be having on the podcast the next episode. So he'll be able to give a lot more insight into what was going on in his mind, which I'll be interested to find out more as well. But just watching it there was a point where even I fell asleep. It took him about 35, 36 hours total. So even me doing nothing, not even running, trying to stay awake for that long, I was like, this is hard enough. Now imagine if I was physically exerting myself the whole time, running up and down hills. Like it's not even a flat part of Minnesota in certain sections. So it was really cool to witness and just absolutely insane. To watch people run or bike in it. This year they had the oldest guy who's ever finish it. He was 75. And I think it took him like 60 hours. But 60 hours out there in, the coldest weather. If you haven't been in like below like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, it's not really too different between -10 and -20. But even when I would stand out there, my breath would freeze on my face. And just from being out there for like 5 minutes. So you guys will see if you watch the documentary or look on Mark Dowdle's social media, you can see the photos, and he has like a face covering on and it's just covered in snow and ice. Everybody biking by, just like there was a guy with a big beard and icicles were just forming off to the side. So it was something else to see. Just like a true like feat of, for anybody to even finish would be a feat of endurance and strength in that weather, in those conditions. And you can't have help at all the whole time. So like I was told by the race director, if I was filming Mark and he dropped his water bottle and it rolled towards me, I couldn't even pick it up to give back to Mark because that would be considered assistance. So not only is it such a tough race, but normally these races that are like 100 miles, you have like an aid station with Coca-Cola, water, like snacks, whatever you want every 10 miles. You might have a crew with you who's like changing your socks for you, changing your shoes, making sure you don't have blisters. This one, there's only 3 checkpoints where you can get help. and it's only from volunteers who are helping with the race. And besides that, like the rest of the time, if you want to take a break from running and take a little nap, you have to have your negative 20-degree rated sleeping bag, pull off to the side of the trail, and like sleep for as long as you want to. And then two, the trail, like there's so many things that are crazy about this race. The trail is a snowmobile trail, and it's not closed during the race. So when we're in the safety meeting, they're like, make sure you are off to the right of the trail with your safety vest and blinky lights on, because we don't want you to get hit by a snowmobile. And up there in northern Minnesota, the people who are like riding on their snowmobile on these trails, they're going to go to the bar from their house. So you can guess it's not exactly like the brightest people coming back late at night on the trail going 50 miles per hour. So it's just like there's so many things, like just one thing after another, that is just crazy about this race compared to even a normal ultra marathon, if that's not crazy enough for you to run 135 miles. But then all these factors on top of it. So I was filming with Mark Dowdle, and it was an incredible thing to witness and film, and working on putting together a little documentary for it now. So
what was your biggest observation in watching him? Like, you're watching someone do this feat that is way, I mean, most people would think running is hard. Then you add the distance, then you add the cold, then you add pulling a sled, and then you add the isolation with no assistance. So it's like each level, like there's like 5 different levels. When you're observing this and watching this, one, what kind of goes through your head? Like, is it inspiring to you? Is it, I can't believe this guy is doing it, is more of a novelty? How are you interpreting what he was doing? Like, from the effect of it, because I know you have really grown an interest in this. How did that affect you?
Yeah, my first thought watching him do this was, I never want to do this because it's just so, like, it was so brutal. Like, even you're running on snow the whole time, and I forgot to mention that earlier, you're pulling a sled, and like it wasn't until after he was finished the race, and I was like, here, I'll get your sled for you, and I picked it up. And just the shock of picking it up and going, there's no way this guy just pulled this sled for 135 miles. Like, the weight of it, I was like, this thing has to be like minimum 30 pounds, 40 pounds. And I don't know if he needed to weigh it out. I'm not sure if he did. We'll find out. But I think just going through my head, watching him, you know, because I would film him at each checkpoint, it was crazy. Like, even when he got to mile 110, which is a checkpoint, he comes into the camp where they're going to help him. Like, he was having casual conversations with the volunteers. I didn't talk. I literally said nothing to him for the whole race. So that way there was no way it could be considered that I assisted him at all. Cause even verbal, like, encouragement or something could be assistance. And so, but watching how he was talking to other people, like, he never had what I could perceive as a bad attitude. Like, I just knew if I was in that, I would be like, I mean, to be quite frank, I know I would just be like mad at myself. Like, why did I even choose to do this? Because of the pain. Like, even at the end when he finished the race, and I guess I can spoil the documentary a little bit, he did finish first out of all the runners. He kind of sat down on top of his sled at the end of the race and was like, you would think winning would feel better than this. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't even know what to say at the end. But just for him to like address it and not be like, oh, look at how strong I am or something like this. Like, Mark, it's been really cool meeting him and filming him, because he's kind of the same person through and through, no matter what he's doing. Like, you know, sometimes you see people on social media that can be a little bit different. Like, I feel like the person I saw on social media before I finally met in real life was the same person. So kind of watching him like run 135 miles and it being like him maintaining his personality and his like positive attitude about everything. Like, I know that can be cliche, like saying somebody has a positive attitude, but when you watch somebody do it in something that challenging, it's like different than just what you perceive as a normal positive attitude. Like, it's like he just has such a sense of like optimism balanced with realism and not letting the challenge of it affect how he talked or interacted with people, and just continually pushing forward. It was really impressive. And that was like, I want to be able to act like that in a challenge, because I know I haven't in challenges in my life. I have not acted like that. That's for sure. So maybe what was going through his head was a little bit different, but he didn't let it out. So that was inspiring for sure in that aspect.
It's really interesting the difference in attitude that you noticed in him, and we'll have to probably pick his brain about this a little bit more, but it's interesting to me because over the last handful of days, I've told some people a little bit about him and his race and everything he had to go through, and most people haven't reacted with, wow, that's incredible. How did he do it? Like, most people have actually been like, why? Like, why would someone do that? That sounds like a terrible idea. And so maybe we'll have to pick his brain on the mental shift there, but that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I kind of asked him the same question, because I was like, oh, we need to get down to like the why. Like when I was interviewing him, filming him for the documentary, like why? And he was like, he kind of said off camera to me, he was like, you can't even explain this to somebody who doesn't pursue discomfort and pursue something like this in some sort of form. Like he's like, how can you even articulate it to somebody who doesn't? And that's not to dog on anybody who said that, because at the same time, I was asking Mark why, because I was kind of like, I kind of want to know why, because I'm not really sure I would have a why for doing this, right? Like I have whys for other things. And so that it's been really interesting, because I think there is a sense too where everybody kind of needs their own why. And Mark kind of said, he was like, you can't explain it to somebody if they don't have a starting point for that. So
let me ask, we've been talking a lot about like setting habits, and we've been talking about the importance of these building blocks and building these pillars into us. The last one we were talking about, when you build a habit, you build this in personal integrity. And I'm sure as we talked to him, there's like habits that built up. It wasn't like one day he was sitting on the couch and the next day he's going to go and run this. I'm not saying that there can't be that sense of discipline, but usually there's something a progression that builds up to it. And so one thing that was kind of going through my head as you're sharing his story of this, and dealing with, fatherless young men, and there's a generation that is hungry to know who they are when we talk about identity. And just to clarify, the identity that's imparted, that you're shared with, that this is what you are. And I've noticed that there's this hunger for young men to go find people that are doing these kind of exploits. Like they don't want any more of what's going to make life easy, what's in it for me. There's a generation emerging that is just different. And so when I'm seeing this different generation come up, the Mark Dowdles, and it kind of started with Jordan Peterson of do things hard. You're going to have to do hard things, face suffering. And we would think like, oh, that just seems awful. But the suffering, in Romans chapter 8, it talks about the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory that will be revealed into us. And, growing up in Christianity, you kind of hear of suffering as, oh, I went to go to the store and I lost some money, and then I came home and my wash machine broke and I'm just suffering. Or a sickness hits, I'm just suffering. Now, you are suffering in those things. So I'm not saying that it isn't a suffering, but it's not the suffering that is deliberate. All of Jesus' suffering was because he deliberately went to go do something. And he was going to see it through. The joy set before him, he endured this. And in a way, I think that's why the picture of the racer is so not just tangible, but it is such the picture of all other areas of our life, is you choose something and then there's suffering in it. But at the end, what you discover about yourself is astronomical. And I think that's why there's this generation that's hungry of a loss of identity, no guidance where to go, and they're starting to see something that if you do something hard, there's this interesting reward, not even the prize of winning, but the prize of discovering something about yourself. And so I'm fascinated, not just with the run, but you discovered it, Caleb, when you did the Appalachian Trail. Jason, you've discovered aspects of this in your journeys of life. Tommy, you've discovered this. What do you think is going on in our current world? Why there's such a hunger for the extreme, push the boundaries, how far can you actually go type life?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting because I do love storytelling, and like, you know, this is kind of my first time doing a little bit of a longer form documentary style piece of work instead of just my normal like social media or television work. And I think it's been interesting because that was kind of my goal with going to film Mark. Like, what's going on where this guy my age, like I think he turned it's funny, his birthday was on the race. I think he turned 29 the day of the race. And it's like, what is going on where it's almost a trend to do the ultra marathon thing. People call it like the Goggins effect, where they're like post on social media, the Goggins effect, and you've run like 100 miles without it even being a race. Like you just went and did it off on your own, or you go run a marathon by yourself without there being like an official race. And I think it is something where young men are like desiring to kind of like create their, I don't want to say like make your own story, but go do something that it's like worth telling about. Like giving, it's almost like, you know, suffering is a way to give yourself meaning, because in your suffering, you're stripping away everything else. Like when Mark's out there running on the race and I'm watching him, I don't even exist to him. Like nothing else really exists because everything else is stripped away. And I think about like Ernest Shackleton, and there's a quote by him that has always stuck out in my head as inspiration. And I'm going to pull it up here really quickly. But if you don't know the Shackleton story, he went down to Antarctica and survived for like 2 years on the ice. And he's like one of the only expeditions to not lose men. He didn't have a single man die. And some of the other the stories with that are just, really insane. Like crossing an island that to this day, like no expedition has successfully really crossed. And it hasn't been like mapped out except for by helicopter. But he has this quote, and this is during his voyage. He says, "We had seen God in his splendors, heard the texts that nature renders. We had reached the naked soul of man." And that's been like one of my favorite quotes that I've always kind of looked to, because like even hiking the Appalachian Trail, running a race like this, doing anything challenging, like it's really about stripping away everything else. And I think there is a physical aspect to it where like when your body is in pain, when you're in suffering and it is voluntary, there is like this kind of nakedness where it's like, it's just you and God and your thoughts. And Mark even talks about it. I gave him a camera to record himself talking to, which you'll see in the film. And he's kind of like talking about, he's only 13 miles into the race. And he's kind of like, the thoughts are here. Like they're saying, my thoughts are saying that I'm not enough. Why am I doing this? I'm not good enough. And I think it's like every young man needs that time to challenge and push through that, because, you know, he even says on there, and I'm going to butcher his quote, but he's like, every mile that I keep moving forward is evidence against that and proof that I am more than just what those voices are in my head. And like, I saw that clip and I'm like, that you could just watch that clip from the documentary. That's all you need to see, because I think like, that's why I love watching ultra documentaries, because what is it? It's taking one step forward, giving yourself evidence that you're more than just like your negative thoughts or whatever voices are messing with you. And so I think like watching somebody else do it is enough to say like, okay, what can I go do? Like even I was with Tommy this week, and if I say it now we're going to be in trouble because we have to, but we were like, we both need to run a marathon in 2026. Like it just needs to happen. And I think it's like the same thing where it's like you need to put yourself in a situation where you have to push beyond like more than just what you think you're capable of and train for that, like discipline yourself for that. And I'm sure we'll talk about it with Mark, but like his discipline, the race is like the evidence of his discipline as well. Like we'll have to see when we talk to him this month. He's doing this thing called the calendar club challenge, and you run a mile for the day of the month it is. So he's going to run a marathon on the 26th. February is a little bit easier than normal, but I wouldn't even be able to do this, so I won't say anything about it. But like the 26th, you run 26 miles. The next day, you're running a marathon again at a mile. And then the 28th, you're going to do it again. And what Mark got well known for is he did that for a year straight, like committed to it. I don't even feel like I'm worthy to even talk about it because it's just insane. Like on Christmas Day, he was running 25 miles. That disciplined to do it every day for an entire year. And I'm like, Arrowhead is like small game compared to that. But the difference between like last year he ran Arrowhead and this year is also insane to see, from fourth place, finishing 4 hours faster and also winning it. So yeah, it's a lot of that, but I think that's why young men are kind of looking for this kind of extreme, because it is about pushing towards that.
And one thing I've seen in that same regard, Brian, is there's a lot of young guys that are looking for that because they didn't get it from their dad growing up. And there's specifically one guy who was telling me about how when he was a kid, he was getting into video games, and when his dad would come home from work, he would want to show his dad what he had done in the video game, and his dad just didn't care. He was like, yeah, whatever. But he wanted to show his dad what he accomplished and how he beat this level and how he defeated this really difficult area, but his dad just didn't care. So whether it's because the dad was absent or emotionally distant, even though they were technically there, I think a lot of guys didn't get that. And so when they see someone who's like, let's push ourselves and let's see what we can do, there's something instinctively that gravitates toward that because it's what their father was supposed to do.
Yeah, that's really good. In fact, I know there's listeners out there going, yeah, I'm not really interested in running a race, and this ain't my wheelhouse. I think we're missing something. So I'm not saying we should go run out and run the Arrowhead 135. I don't know if I have the mental capacity to understand it. You know, like we say, we can't do that, or that's just too big, or who would want to do something like that? What's worse is we start criticizing the person who's actually accomplishing that, which you get the haters like, what an idiot. Look at the cold weather, and we have all the reasons why you couldn't do it. It's not healthy. And I'm sure there's some health nuts talking about what happens to your body by running too hard like that. I think we need to scrap all that, because everybody, first of all, has their own race to run. But if you actually start doing something, I hated running. I completely hated running till my wife conned me into a 10K 2 years ago and did it. And I'll tell you, it has radically changed a way of thinking for me. And as much as I hated it, you start understanding what runners, now when I say a 10K, for all of you runners out there, I know it's nothing. You probably run that every day for your morning ritual. Never ran. In my age, never run. To say what was your fastest mile, I wouldn't even be able to tell you, because I had probably never run a mile. Little short sprints, play sports, whatever, but not like just go out and run. Now I deliberately look for it. Now I make myself run because something happened of doing something every day that I discover there's something more. And it's not that I actually enjoy it anymore. It's, I can do this. I can make my body do something. I'm actually in charge of my body. My emotions don't get to dictate what I feel. And so you start doing it, and all of a sudden you want to do more with it. It's not that you actually love the activity, but you realize you can make yourself do more than you ever thought. And that's why we always came back to those habits. So I kind of wanted to kind of hear back from you, Tommy, is like, you got us signed up for this Tough Mudder, which is tough for us. To me, it's bigger than the Arrowhead 135, but to a runner, it's like, Yeah, it's nothing. But you got to sign up for this Tough Mudder and kind of prepping for it. What happened in you that caused you to want to start doing this?
Well, for me, it goes back to, and first off, I want to say thank you to Caleb for staying over. Caleb was able to stay 2 nights at our house with my wife and I, and uh, part of the Tough Mudder is seeing other people accomplish something. It kind of inspires you to try something in your own rights, and even more so now, watching Caleb and his fire and passion for telling this story, it gets me fired up for for our adventure, our Tough Mudder coming up, for the story we're going to be writing in June. Like it's inspiring to see other people who are on fire for something pursuing it all out. Like just hearing the conversations with Caleb and like seeing how inspired he is to tell this story. Like, to be frank, like, Mark, you did a great job. You ran 135 miles, but it's less inspiring to me as it is watching my friend, who I've known for the last 6-7 years, start pursuing something that he's passionate about and on fire for. So I think for me, part of it has to do with, like, you got to find a group of guys or of friends that inspire you to push beyond your normal self. And it doesn't have to be like a push of like a shove, like, oh, Brian, you're being fat and lazy, you need to start running. It's like, no, like I see Brian start running a 10K and I'm like, shoot, I haven't ran a 10K. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I need to step up my game. And so for me, it's been very inspiring to see Caleb go through this journey the last week and a half of him being in Minnesota and doing the filming and having some conversations behind the scene. And it's just exciting to see guys pursuing stuff.
Yeah, that's Jason. You have I wanted to pull this little quote from you from our last podcast of your first opening. Man, who would want to run in Minnesota? It's negative 45 degrees. And you're talking about all this stuff. And now we're going to have the guy that actually ran it coming on, which I think is going to be a funny metaphor for your life. What have you noticed in just, we have been doing these habit challenges of just getting our mind and body to do what we're telling it to do in just small little chunks, but every day. What has happened mentally to you specifically since we started the challenge of deliberately focusing on what you're going to think about?
I think the main thing that's helped with is it kind of puts all the other distractions in their proper box, and so they can be dealt with in the right time and in the right manner. Because without the intentionality of, well, this is what my focus is going to be on, there are 17,000 things in our day-to-day that rip our attention away, and you have to have guardrails against that, otherwise your time is gone. And that's something that I have fallen victim to in the past a lot, is my time and my attention is not because I've been setting it. It's because this thing pulls at me, and then this thing pulls at me, and then this thing pulls at me. And at the end of the day, I'm frustrated because I feel like I didn't get any of the things done that I needed to, or at least not in the way that I think I needed to get them done. And actually someone was asking me about this yesterday when it comes to dealing with stress, because they're going through a lot of rough circumstances right now. And they're like, how do you deal with stress like this? And that's one of the things we talked about, is you have the things you are focusing on, and just the act of doing that and being intentional, everything else has to fall behind it. And, for me, it's helped quite a bit.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, you can control what you can control and let go of what you can't.
Yeah.
And I can control today if I'm going to run a mile. I can control today if I'm going to walk a mile. I can control today if I'm going to choose hot water or warm water. I can choose today whether I'm going to doom scroll until I have to run out the door, or if I'm going to get up and actually prioritize reading my Bible, seeing the sun, moving my body, like all of that. It's all a choice. And I think that's the thing for me that gets back, and I'm excited to have Mark on next week. Like that choice, like, like Caleb, you're saying, like he only slept for a little bit on the trail. You're saying when we were talking, and for me, is like when I stop running, I stop running. I don't start again. It's like it's not a, oh, I'm gonna run 10 miles and then take a little light walk and then run again. It's like, no, I'm done. And first of all, I haven't ran 10 miles yet, so we'll see when I get there. But like I ran 2.2 miles yesterday, and when I stopped running, I was done. Like it's that choice. It's like how do you choose to then just keep going? Like that's a very interesting thing to me, and I think it comes down to like I can control only a certain amount of things in my life, but if I can really control those things and get them dialed in, it kind of sets the course for everything else. Like if I wake up in the morning and I take this ridiculously cold shower, then hearing no from someone suddenly means nothing. Like from the sales side, like I don't really care anymore. Like I already chose the hardest thing I'm going to do today. And so I think that's an interesting thing I've learned over the last month and a half. And I feel like it's coming out from all of us in unique ways. I think like I see the passion from Jason and Caleb and Brian all in different ways. And yeah, it's been cool to see as a group that kind of change.
You know, this is so good, and you guys are tying into something well. And I think just for our listeners, just you're just listening into this, going, "What's going on?" When we set like daily habits, because none of us are athletes. I mean, I think everybody's athletic, but like to do like a big feat like this is mentally challenging. But if we realize that so much of our life is mental, and I don't mean mental just like get over it type of mental, but I mean it's a real strong voice. Like you get out and start moving in any area of your life that's been hard. Just think of any area of your life that you need to go deal with that's been hard. Step into it and listen to the voices talking to you. It is just like this bombardment of voices. And for some reason, we think those voices are originating from us. And I don't believe they are. I mean, they are. I'm not saying all these voices are outside voices coming, but they're trained voices, they're conditioned voices, but they're not the real us. It's not from our true identity that these voices are emerging. And I think this is why Paul uses running so much as a metaphor of our Christian life. Because when you're out running, I don't care if it's your first time running and you just have to run around the block, your voices are going to start talking. And they're never positive encouragement voices like, you can do this. You got this. Doesn't this feel great? They're never the warm, fuzzy voices. It's always like, why would you bother? Who cares about this? It's just a lap around the neighborhood. What a waste of time. At the end of the day, what did that do? And we think fitness, we think losing weight. We attach all of these crazy other things to that event. I believe the event is simply you training yourself to tell yourself what you're going to do, what you're going to think. And that's why in our habits, we keep them small, but you do it every day, every day, every day. Because then pretty soon you start building this integrity inside and you realize there's more. Now you take someone, I'm interested to hear the story, but you take someone who's done one thing hard and overcome, done another thing hard and overcome. You want to do something more because it's like, wow, I've been lying to myself about what is possible. So that's just natural. Now add God into it when he's trying to tell you this is what you can do. And we come up with every reason why, especially in Christianity and theology, why that can't happen. That's a metaphor. That's something in the future. Why? The whole metaphor of going into the promised land was, hey, here's your promise. Yeah, there's giants there, but don't worry, you can beat the giants. I'm with you. I don't know about the giants. Look who I am. I'm just a grasshopper. Life has the same conversation in every area. And the more we start beating that in little daily habits, who knows what's possible? And I think we're starting to see some people tapping into this just in normal life things, whether it's running, whether it's some kind of accomplishment. It could be, going to the moon. It's just they're pushing the barriers. I was told no, and I'm discovering that yes is actually out there. So now add God into that, and where could it go? So daily habits.
It's also too, it's like that fight of identity, like right away. Like when you're saying, when you start running, you get all these voices in your head of like, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you're fat. Why don't you just go sit on the couch? Like all these little things. And it's interesting, the enemy's number one tactic is to go right to that identity. And I think doing something hard, like learning something new, it goes like that first attack is always on the identity. It's like, if I don't know, maybe I'll have to do this now, but like learning the guitar, Jason, I would just imagine as I'm doing that, I'm just gonna be like, I'm stupid. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just stupid. I'm just stupid. And then you repeat this loop in your head of like this, and it's like such an easy attack. Whereas if you choose to do the hard thing day in and day out, like you almost build in your identity of like who you are.
Or try this one. Well, Jason could do it because he's musical. He has that natural gifting. I don't have that natural gifting. So who am I? And I think those are all lies. I think there's people that have a stronger, in the peak of it, a bent towards it, an interest in it, and they may have a structure or a thinking that is more inclined to it. But we're talking about just getting off the ground. Like everyone can run. Everyone could walk. Like, okay. And if you can't, you can roll in a wheelchair. Everybody can move and do something. Now your skill level will increase, and yeah, you could get into different functionings, but we haven't even hit that. I don't think in life we've even tapped into that. We're more interested in killing off someone who succeeds. Well, they're doing that because, well, they were able to lose weight because of Ozempic. They were able to do that because they're taking steroids, or they're able to do that because they're cheating. Like, yeah, there's those people out there. But that's not the whole. I think that's more of I don't know how to face myself, so I would rather be comfortable right here doing nothing and criticizing someone that went forward. But if you'll be on, because your identity gets challenged. So back to this point you're making, Tommy, the moment you step out and do something that is new, uncomfortable, and hard, like Jason said last week, you feel so small. And Tommy, you were saying that. And it's not even like you fatty. It's you there's something wrong with you. And it's like you start buying into it. And I'll tell you, you will discover the lies you've told yourself the moment you have to go out and run 1 mile. You will discover so many lies in just that first run. And then you realize, wow, if that was a lie, how many other things were lies? But it emerges from your identity. So that was a great point, Tommy.
And you can also see how quickly you can defeat those lies, right? Just pick up the foot, keep running. You just destroyed that lie. Like every step of the way, you're defeating a lie. And it's with anything hard. I mean, Caleb, you're doing something hard right now too, trying to tell the story. Like we're all doing these hard things, but if you can build in a habit that intentionally like destroys these lies, then you can start, like you're saying, Brian, you can identify them easier in other areas of your life where you're believing lies.
Caleb, what was your overall, I know you're going to tell a great story with this, but if you were to give us one impact point that really stood out to you watching this, that it can affect the rest of your life, or just something that is an impact point that is altering a way of thinking for you in doing that filming, what is that besides keeping warm?
Yeah, so you can probably hear a bit of a rumble next to me. That's just the neighbor with the motorcycle. But anyways, the biggest thing, and I think it's what opens the film, what I'm opening the film with, is Mark had a GoPro with him last year when he ran the race. And there's a clip where he is talking to himself and he's like, I know I'm going to finish because I've only got 20 something miles left and I've already been through so much, so I have to finish it. And I almost hate telling it because I love the opening so much for this, but he's like, I will never do this again. I've never had such little fun in my life. And then immediately it cuts to he's doing it this year and it's him running down the trail, empty woods, like this massive expanse with nothing else around him. And so we're thinking of a title right now, maybe something about like the return. But I think that's the biggest thing is like, that's the biggest thing so far that I was like, man, you did this last year and like nobody was there to film it. Like there's so many people who do it and like nobody even knows the people who are doing it. That 75-year-old, maybe some people saw it on Facebook. And I think it's like the intensity and the discipline to say yes again to the habit or the challenge. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking away and trying to tell in the film is like, if it's hard, just say yes again to it. And then too, you'll see in the film, it's like, it is not any easier. You just are a different person when you keep on saying yes and yes again. Like that, like you guys were saying, like running that first mile, like getting out and doing that first mile. I don't think day 2, when you run another mile, that it's going to be that much easier, if not harder, and you don't want to do it. But I think it's just that dedication to keep on saying yes and yes again to keep, because that's what a habit is, right? You have to keep on saying yes to this discipline. Like that's the difference between like a one-off thing, like, oh, I went and did this thing and then like never doing it again. So I think that was the biggest thing for me watching Mark and knowing what he's doing this month. Like after the race, he's doing calendar club for February. So he's running today, when we're recording this, is the 4th. He's running 4 miles. Well, in 22 days, he's going to run a marathon. And it's because he's saying yes again to it and saying yes again every time he does it. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, that's how you go run the Arrowhead 135, is say yes again to the discipline every time. Like Tommy going to go do the Tough Mudder, which I'm like that's just as impressive to me. Like, because we're all starting at a different point, but he has to say yes time and time again to do the training for it. Same thing for Jason with the being musically talented. Like that's not just talent. That's a ton of hard work and years of dedication to a craft. And so I think it's like, okay, what can I keep on saying yes to in my life repeatedly, even though it's going to continually be hard? And what can that become? Like honestly, I do not like editing, and to make a film that's more than like 10, 20 minutes long, you have to say yes time and time again to watching through, cutting stuff up, editing it, and putting it together. So it's like, you have to do that with anything in life to get anything done. So you might as well volunteer yourself to it, to do something hard and challenge yourself, because how much more exponentially will you grow and what will you be able to accomplish? It could be, the Arrowhead 135. And I think that's like what the film is about. So.
Yeah, let me leave a couple thoughts, and then I want you guys to kind of close out. So again, we've been kind of focusing around habits and building blocks to change our mindset. And what you just explained, Caleb, even though we do hard things, there's something in us that wants to see what's capable of more. And so even if you take, if as a film producer or a film editor and the amount of labor it goes, when you push the envelope there, it trains your brain in other areas. So if you push, that's why we just pick a habit that's kind of outside of the thing you have to go do, because it trains your brain in a different environment, but the same self-talk, the same realities can be applied into will start manifesting in every area. And I just want to leave with, whether it's Joshua chapter 1 of meditating on the scripture day and night so you could be a good success in taking a promise, whether it's Psalms 1, meditating day and night so you can be fruitful and successful in daily life, whether it's Philippians 4, meditate on the word or what's true, what's good, what's a good report day and night so you can do your Christian life. Now it starts making sense when Paul in Romans 8 says the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared of not the glory that's coming, but the glory that will be revealed in us. That's amazing. The suffering strips off something so you're revealed, and the suffering is always deliberate. Jesus didn't suffer accidentally. He didn't just like have his wash machine break and like, oh, it's just a bad day. It was because he deliberately pushed the envelope of breaking and freeing humanity for the joy set before him. So when we start building that mindset, man, it becomes such a reward. It's not, it's like a passion. That's why it's called, suffering is the same word for passion. It becomes this passion that, yeah, you're getting stripped away of things, but man, the real you is being revealed and how much more is possible. So start with a little habit, meditate every day. If you start with there, you get the mind thing right, man, everything else starts having an adventure to it versus a burden.
Tommy, Caleb, any other final thoughts?
Yeah, I think for myself, it's come back to, first of all, seeing Caleb go on this journey himself. I think back of the quote, just a general idea of the quote is like, I set myself on fire and people come out to watch me burn. And it goes back to the point of like, a goal is nothing without a deadline. And I've seen Caleb now, okay, I got to get this out before this happens. Otherwise, I'm going to miss my window. And it's like, oh, I know what Caleb's doing on his off nights. Like, I know the work he's putting in. And it's like, for myself, like, oh, I should be at a better place with my health. Wow, fantastic. No deadline. Run a Tough Mudder by June. It's like, oh, shoot. Now everything is going to be fully revealed. Like, it's putting yourself to the test. And I think that's a big part of this as well. And maybe we can explore that with Mark and explore it down the road too. But all of this habits and stuff, it leads to a test. Whether you fail or don't fail the test doesn't really matter, but you gotta put yourself out there for some scrutiny. And people will come out and say, oh, you're stupid. Oh, you shouldn't run 135 miles, but does it really matter? You're putting yourself to the test, and if you do it, you just built that confidence within you. It doesn't really matter what the other people say. So I'm excited, Caleb, to see over the next month what you produce. And it's been, it was fun to have you the last 2 weeks, and it'll be exciting to have Mark on next week.
Yeah, 100%. And huge shout out to Tommy for letting me crash at his place and hog up space and stuff. But I think that is like such a good point of the test. Cause Mark did win, but like we didn't know if he would or not. Like, what would the film look like differently? I think it would still be the same film. Like, the win is just the evidence of that. Like you're saying, it's to see what is true. Like last year, and you guys will see this in the documentary again, like I'm going to give it all away, but like Mark went into the race thinking he was going to, which I'm like, no, I could see him doing it, but thinking he was going to beat the all-time record for the race. And he said he's never been so humbled in his life because he didn't even win the race and like finish, like, I think it was like 10 hours later than the record. And like, he didn't beat the record this year, which I don't think that matters at all unless it's one of his goals. But I think it's like, man, you have to put yourself through that and test yourself. Like, the Tough Mudder will be the test of, did I discipline and have the habits that I was supposed to? Like, that's everything in life. Like, even when I was like leaving, Mark was like, it's like the same thing. We're all going through the same thing, because he was like, are you going to procrastinate? Would it be better if I like text you and check in like once a week? And I was like, yes, please. And he's like, it's because that's the same thing I would do. And so it's like, it's the same no matter what level you get to. It's the same, like when you hear him talk, and hopefully when we have him on the podcast next week, like it's the same stuff we've been talking about for the past year. It is, you're at another level, but the mental battle doesn't change. So if you can do it now, then what can you do in a year? Like Mark can only face these battles and these mental things because he's been doing it, and it hasn't really changed. Like it's a little discouraging, but way more encouraging at the same time. Cause I'm going, wait, Mark, like I think the same thing. And I haven't even run like 10 miles ever. Like, are you kidding me? And so that's really interesting to see. And I think it's like, you know, you don't know what somebody's mentally going through when you're doing this. Like to think Mark was feeling good the whole time, you'd have to be insane. Like I'll add one last thing. He's had a bunch of friends text him after saying, no doubt, Mark, like no doubt, believed in you, blah, blah, blah. And Mark was in the car with me. He's like, dude, these people have no idea, like doubt the whole time, doubt from mile 1 to mile 135. And he's like, are you kidding me? And he like I was even like, well, I had no doubt he would finish. And he's like, doubt for mile 1, but he pushes through. And I think that's like, that's everybody. That's not like, it's not like some unique thing that you're going through when you go do this thing. So to see somebody on that level have the same mentality and the same push, like, it's like, you just got to do it. I don't like, you know, and we'll talk about it more for sure, but definitely exciting. And yeah, can't wait to see it.
Right on. Well, we're going to leave it at that. I want to leave you guys with a question to ask yourself as we kind of are talking about habits, and whether it's something specific in a habit or a discipline, or whether it's just life in general. I want you to ask yourself if you want it to get easier or if you want to get better at it. And then to think about why you're responding that way, because those are two very different things. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to have a great episode next time with Mark. Until next time, keep the faith and stay in the fight.